I still remember the night Daniel called to tell me his old friend Eric would be spending a few days with us. It was raining hard, and the city lights shimmered through the droplets running down the living room window. I was halfway through folding laundry when he said, "He's just in town for work, can he crash here a couple nights?" Of course, I replied, though my tone wasn't exactly enthusiastic. I didn't know Eric very well, only that he and my husband had gone to college together, and that Daniel trusted him completely. Still, the thought of a guest breaking the quiet rhythm of our little apartment unsettled me. Eric arrived later that evening carrying one small suitcase and a box of pastries as a thank you. He had the kind of calm, polite energy that immediately filled a room. We exchanged small talk over tea while Daniel told old stories that made them both laugh. Watching them, I found myself smiling too. By midnight, Daniel excused himself to rest. I stayed up a little longer tidying the kitchen. When I turned around, Eric was standing there with 2 cups of tea. "Couldn't sleep," he said. "Mind some company?" We talked softly about work, about how fast life moves when you're not looking. He told me he'd recently gone through a breakup and was trying to start over. There was no awkwardness, just 2 adults talking in the soft hum of night. Eventually we said goodnight, and I went to bed feeling oddly peaceful. The next morning, Daniel left early for an out-of-town meeting. He'd be gone overnight, which meant Eric and I would have the house to ourselves that evening. I didn't think much of it, until my friend Leah texted, "You're brave letting your husband's friend stay alone with you." That one sentence planted a seed of discomfort I couldn't shake. Throughout the day, every small sound made me alert. When Eric went out for groceries, I wondered what he was really doing. When he smiled and thanked me for dinner, I searched his face for hidden meaning. It was ridiculous, but the mind is creative when fueled by doubt. That night, thunder rolled in again. Around 10, the power went out. I lit a few candles and tried to laugh it off, but the house felt eerily still. Eric offered to check the fuse box. I heard him moving in the hallway, then nothing for several minutes. "Eric?" I called. No answer. I grabbed a flashlight and followed the narrow corridor to the guest room. The door was slightly open, light flickering inside. He was sitting on the floor, surrounded by photographs. My heart jumped, then softened when I saw what they were. Pictures of Daniel. Old graduation photos, snapshots from trips, even a torn picture of the 3 of us at our wedding. In the center was a folded envelope with Daniel's name on it. Eric looked up, startled. "You weren't supposed to see this." "What is all this?" I whispered. He took a breath. "Daniel helped me more than anyone knows. When I was broke and drinking too much, he paid my rent and never told anyone. I came here because I wanted to pay him back quietly. I've been collecting memories for a surprise, an album for his birthday. He never keeps pictures of himself, you know?" I stood there, feeling the heat of embarrassment flood my face. All my suspicions, my whispered doubts, they collapsed under the weight of his sincerity. I stopped, ashamed. "I thought you were hiding something else." He smiled gently. "Maybe I was. Just not what you imagined." We spent the next hour sorting the photos by candlelight. He told me stories of their college days, the way Daniel once stood up for him when nobody else did. Listening to him, I realized how little I actually knew about the quiet kindnesses my husband had scattered through his life. When Daniel returned the next evening, he was surprised to find an almost finished photo album waiting on the table. Eric handed it to him, eyes bright. "Happy early birthday, brother." Daniel flipped through the pages, laughter and tears mingling on his face. "You kept all this?" he asked. Eric nodded. "You kept me together when I was falling apart. This is the least I could do." Daniel hugged him tightly, and for a moment I saw what true friendship looks like, loyalty born of hardship, not convenience. After Eric left that weekend, the apartment felt strangely quiet. I told Daniel about finding him with the photos and how wrong I'd been to doubt his friend. Daniel only smiled and said, "We all protect ourselves with stories when we don't know the truth." That night I sat on the couch, flipping through the album again. Each photo carried a piece of a story I'd never heard. Each one reminded me how easy it is to mistake silence for secrecy and kindness for deception. Sometimes the people we fear the most are the ones quietly guarding the things that matter. After Eric left that weekend, the house felt strangely quiet, but not empty. There was a warmth lingering, like a gentle echo of the laughter and stories we'd shared. For the first time in months, I felt a sense of calm. I realized that my anxiety and suspicion had been heavy, unnecessary burdens, misplaced fears that had prevented me from seeing the truth. Daniel and I sat together that night, flipping through the photo album Eric had left behind. I could see it had brought him joy, small, quiet joy that I had almost overlooked. Each photo carried a memory I hadn't been part of, stories of kindness, small sacrifices, and loyalty I hadn't known existed. I felt a mixture of awe and shame. I had doubted Eric, and in doing so, I had allowed my insecurities to cloud my perception. "Thank you for trusting me enough to let him stay," Daniel said softly, his hand resting on mine. I looked at him and realized how little I truly understood the people who loved him most. "I know it wasn't easy," he continued, "but I think you needed to see this side of him, and of us." I nodded, tears welling in my eyes. "I needed to see the truth," I admitted. "And I needed to see how much loyalty and care can exist quietly, without needing recognition." That night, I called Eric one last time before he left town. "I just wanted to thank you," I said, my voice breaking slightly. "Not just for the album, but for showing me that people can care in ways we don't always notice." He laughed softly, a sound full of warmth and sincerity. "You're welcome. I just hope you and Daniel know how much you're loved, in ways that sometimes go unspoken." As I hung up, I sat quietly in the living room, reflecting on everything that had happened. I realized that life is full of hidden kindnesses, acts of love we may never fully understand until we take the time to look beyond appearances. That night had changed me. It had taught me to trust, to see the goodness in others, and to value the quiet sacrifices people make out of love. From that day forward, my relationship with Eric, and even with Daniel, deepened in ways I hadn't anticipated. I felt closer to them, more connected, and more aware of the importance of understanding before judgment. The shadows of doubt and fear that had hung over me for so long began to lift, replaced by a warm sense of appreciation and gratitude. Life's secret stories aren't always about betrayal or heartbreak. Sometimes, the most meaningful stories are about loyalty, compassion, and the small, quiet acts that make life truly extraordinary. That weekend, a simple act of kindness changed everything. And in the process, it reminded me of the beauty in forgiveness, trust, and emotional honesty. If this story resonated with you, remember, the people around you may be carrying acts of love and loyalty you cannot see. Take a moment to understand, to forgive, and to appreciate. Subscribe to Life's Secret Stories and join me as we uncover more stories where every secret has a voice and every revelation touches the heart. Because sometimes, the truth that shatters our assumptions is the very truth that teaches us how to love deeper.